In this tutorial, we're going to be drawing some boxes using one-point perspective. So you'll need a pencil, you'll need an eraser, and you'll need a ruler. First of all, what you need to do is draw a horizon line. A horizon line is where the earth meets the sky, and then we need to draw a vanishing point. So just one, because it's one-point perspective. And then we're going to draw 3 boxes to start with. One below the horizon line, one on the horizon line, and one above the horizon line. So when we say one-point perspective, we have objects vanishing into one point in space, and that's your vanishing point. Once we have our boxes drawn, we're going to make something called converging lines. So to converge means to come together, and can we guess where that would be? At the vanishing point. So all of our lines go from the corners of our objects to the vanishing point. So we'll line up our ruler from one corner to the vanishing point and draw a line. And always remember, draw it light until you get it right. You'll need to erase a lot of these converging lines when we're done. So if you draw too dark, you won't be able to erase it. And we'll see here with these 2 corners on the back side, if we were to draw a converging line, it would go through the square, so we won't draw those. We'll just leave them the way it is. So we'll move on and we'll draw a light converging line from each corner to the vanishing point. Make sure your ruler lines up right with the vanishing point, otherwise they won't be accurate. And then if we see this back corner, it goes through the square again, so we don't want to draw that line unless if we want it to be see-through. And we'll move on to the last box, so connecting each corner to the vanishing point. And again, we see this back corner goes through the square, so we won't draw a converging line there. Our last step is to draw parallel lines to create the sides of our boxes. So parallel to each side, we're going to stay in between the 2 converging lines that we've drawn. So there we can see we have a side of a box now. So we'll erase the horizon line inside of that because it is not see-through. And then we'll erase the extra converging lines outside of that parallel line. Moving on, we'll line up our ruler with the side of the box, keeping the ruler as straight as we can. We don't want it to wobble like that. So line it up and drag it straight across to make sure it's still parallel to the side of the box. So we'll stay in between those 2 converging lines that make up those 2 corners. And then to create the other one, we're going to line it up with the side, and we're going to stop at this point where the converging line meets the parallel line. So we'll drag it back, and once we hit that little dot, we will stop. And so now we have a cube. So we can erase those extra converging lines. And let's move on to the last one. So we line up with the side of the box and drag our ruler down. We'll stay in between the 2 converging lines. There's our little point of connection, so we'll do the side now and make sure we're parallel and draw the other side. So there we have our final cube. And now let's think about maybe a box that might overlap with another one. So we see this converging line doesn't go through this, but this one does. So what do? We don't want to draw right through that box. So as long as the ruler is lined up with that vanishing point, we can just stop when we hit the box. So each corner, as long as it's lined up, we can stop when we hit the box, just like that. Now to do the parallel lines, maybe we want to make it back far behind the box so that they're really overlapping. We'll stop our line when we hit that box, and then we'll just pretend, we'll figure out where those two lines would meet and make a little dot just so we know where we can stop on the other one. And then we will slide a ruler up to that point. And as you can see, where that mark is actually behind the entire box, so we won't even see the top parallel line. And then finally, we can erase those extra converging lines. Finally, the last step is to do some shading to make our boxes look more 3D. So I'm making a little light bulb here so we know where the light is coming from. You could draw sun, it doesn't matter. I like light bulbs though. So the light is kind of directly overhead, and what we need to do is kind of imagine what the light would be hitting. So as you can see, the tops of them, the light would be hitting directly. The side of that box that's up in the air would be hitting. But then the areas underneath would definitely be the darkest areas because they are the farthest away from the light. So we're going to shade those in pretty dark. So anywhere the light is far away from, it's going to be our darkest value. And we'll speed things up a little bit here. Areas that are kind of in the middle, like they're not too far away, will be a little bit lighter. They'll be a medium value compared to the areas that are farthest away, which are going to be those darker values. So we have a couple more areas that'll be just a little bit in the middle. Just like that. And then lastly, we have shadows. Obviously, three-dimensional objects would cast a shadow if the sun or a light source is shining on them. So we make a little shadow underneath where the box is floating, and it would kind of overlap over the top of this box on the bottom. So we'll see a little bit on the top and the side. This one's floating too, so we'll have some space on the ground where it is. And this will kind of be on top of the side of this box as well. Just like so. And then the last two are sitting on the ground. So the light would be kind of pushing the shadow in front and off to the sides of each of these objects. And there you have it. Boxes in 1-point perspective.